There's a detail that separates ordinary people from those who dominate any situation, and almost no one pays attention to it. It's not charisma. It's not money, much less luck. In fact, the closer you look, the more you notice something uncomfortable. Those who win rarely play fair the way they were taught. Machiavelli already warned that the world doesn't work through merit, but through a correct interpretation of reality. And those who insist on acting only with good intentions always end up arriving too late. Perhaps you've experienced this firsthand. You talk too much when you should be silent. You explain when you should end things. You justify when you should simply withdraw. And it is precisely there, in the final minutes of any interaction, negotiation, or conflict, that power changes hands. It's not about being aggressive. It's about understanding that decisions based on real human nature are worth more than any beautiful speech. Whoever masters these final moments uses time, silence, and positioning as invisible weapons. In this video, you'll understand why seemingly ordinary people manage to turn the tables without raising their voices, without wearing themselves out, and without begging for approval. The secret isn't in being loved, but in being respected. It's not in controlling everything, but in using the right control at the right time. And when you see this clearly, you'll never come out of a situation the same way again, because you'll realize that the game has always been happening, and now you know where to look. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now, not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. There's a silent belief that accompanies many people from a young age, the idea that being good, righteous, and just guarantees automatic reward. People grow up believing that if they do everything right, life will recognize it. But in practice, they begin to notice a strange pattern. They work harder, strive harder, avoid conflict, deliver results, and still suffer. Meanwhile, others, less dedicated and sometimes even less ethical, advance. This is where frustration arises. The problem isn't goodness itself, but strategic naivete. Machiavelli already warned that politics guided by reality, not ideals, is what governs the real world. Life doesn't distribute rewards based on intention, but on positioning. When someone confuses virtue with passivity, they end up working against themselves, believing that the world works as it should and not as it really is. The experienced mentor observes that good people often fall into a dangerous trap. They think that avoiding confrontation is a sign of maturity, when often it's just disguised fear. They want to be seen as correct, agreeable, trustworthy. They live maintaining an appearance of virtue, but without realizing it, they relinquish power. In the real game, those who never set limits become fertile ground for abuse. The end justifies the means, not in the sense of betraying values, but of understanding that strategic survival requires conscious action. Better to be feared than loved doesn't mean being cruel, but rather respected. Good people suffer because they try to be loved by everyone, forgetting the basic principle of avoiding being hated, but also of avoiding being irrelevant. Kindness without strength becomes an invitation to disrespect. When this pattern repeats itself, the person begins to wonder where they went wrong, and they almost always conclude incorrectly. They think they need to be even more correct, even more available, even more understanding. The wise person knows that this only deepens the problem. Virtue and fortune go hand in hand. Character without strategy does not sustain power. The calculated use of force is sometimes simply saying no, backing away from overcommitting, or stopping explaining oneself. Those who build their own loyal armies, be it skills, reputation, or financial independence, suffer less because they depend less on external validation. Decisions based on real human nature require understanding that not everyone plays fair, and that constant adaptability is what separates those who survive from those who merely obey the invisible rules. Rules that become even clearer when observing the professional environment. In the workplace, many people still believe that technical competence is the main criterion for advancement. A person delivers results, arrives early, leaves late, solves problems that weren't theirs, and yet watches less competent colleagues get promoted. This generates indignation, almost a feeling of silent betrayal. The experienced mentor observes that the mistake lies in reading the game. Companies are not pure meritocracies, they are political systems. Machiavelli would understand this clearly. Decisions are rarely guided by ideals, but by a policy guided by reality, not ideals. Those who rise are not only those who do well, but those who are perceived as necessary, strategic, and difficult to replace. Working hard is important, but working visibly and strategically is what changes the game. There's a stark difference between producing value and being associated with value. Many professionals do the hard work behind the scenes, while others dominate the narrative. The latter understand, even if intuitively, that power stems from perception. They know when to speak, when to be silent, when to align themselves, and when to publicly disagree. The end justifies the means here appears as pragmatism. It's no use being right if no one recognizes it. Better to be feared than loved in this context means being respected for perceived competence, not being the nice guy who solves everything. Those who avoid conflict at all costs end up being seen as operational, not strategic. And in the corporate game, operational skills don't determine the course of action. The wise leader would advise simple yet uncomfortable actions. Choosing visible projects, learning to communicate results in meetings, documenting deliverables, building internal alliances. Books like Machiavelli's The Prince or Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power help to identify patterns that repeat themselves in any organization. Creating your own loyal armies can mean developing rare skills, mastering a critical system, or becoming a reference in something few understand. Decisions based on real human nature show that leaders promote those who solve their problems, not just those who make an effort. And those who don't understand this continue playing as if it were a fair game, until they realize that the work chessboard looks a lot like the relationship chessboard. In relationships, many people enter believing that love is perfect balance, fair exchange, and constant mutual giving. The person gives, adapts, yields, swallows discomfort, all in the name of harmony. But over time, something strange happens. The one who yields the most begins to feel smaller. The attentive mentor perceives that behind the romantic discourse, there is a silent power dynamic. Machiavelli would never be surprised by this. Relationships also follow a policy guided by reality, not by ideals. Whoever has more options, emotional, social, or material, naturally occupies a position of advantage. It's not cruelty, it's real human nature operating without asking permission. The common mistake is confusing love with self-annihilation. People who are too good believe that the more available they are, the more they will be valued, but the effect is usually the opposite. When someone constantly abandons boundaries to maintain the bond, they communicate weakness, not affection. Better to be feared than loved here doesn't mean inspiring fear, but maintaining respect. Those who never say no, who always accept emotional crumbs, end up being seen as a given, and what is given is rarely valued. The end justifies the means appears as emotional clarity. Preserving one's own dignity is more important than maintaining an image of virtue that only benefits the other person. The wise person would advise simple yet difficult actions. Cultivate one's own life, invest in emotional autonomy, maintain interests and circles outside the relationship. Reading books like Attached by Amir Levine helps to understand attachment patterns, while The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene reveals predictable behaviors when power and affection mix. Creating one's own loyal armies in this context is building self-esteem based on competence and independence, not on external validation. Decisions based on real human nature show that healthy relationships require a balance of power. And when this balance doesn't exist, the question ceases to be about love and becomes about who is waiting to be saved. There is a silent waiting that consumes entire years of many people's lives. The person doesn't realize it, but lives as if something or someone will appear to solve everything. A boss who recognizes them, an ideal partner, a perfect opportunity, a stroke of luck. Meanwhile, they continue enduring, believing that the reward will come because they are doing their part. The experienced mentor sees this as one of the most expensive illusions of adult life. Machiavelli would call it strategic naivete. The world doesn't operate to save anyone, it responds to movement. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, shows that those who wait too long transfer power to chance, and fortune doesn't respect those who don't act. Waiting to be saved is comfortable because it removes the weight of responsibility. If nothing changes, there's always an external culprit: the system, family, government, partner, boss. But this attitude comes at a high price. The end justifies the means appears here as a call to action, to take control of one's own path, even if it means discomfort. Better to be feared than loved in this context is to stop asking permission to exist. Those who live trying to avoid being hated also end up avoiding difficult decisions, such as changing careers, ending lukewarm relationships, or cutting off financial dependencies that drain energy. The wise man would advise practical, unglamorous attitudes, developing a monetizable skill, creating a minimum financial reserve, studying models of independence. Reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill helps to understand the power of decision, while The Prince by Machiavelli teaches that virtue only manifests itself when someone stops waiting for fortune and starts acting. Building one's own loyal armies can mean learning sales, communication, or management, tools that restore autonomy. Decisions based on real human nature show that no one comes to rescue those who don't move. And this realization prepares the ground for an even harsher metric, the one that life truly uses to judge everyone. Many people console themselves by saying they had good intentions. They tried, they made an effort, they did their best, and they expect that to be enough. But life doesn't work like a court of good intentions. The wise mentor makes this clear right away. The world measures results, not justifications. Machiavelli understood this deeply by observing kings, generals, and rulers. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, shows that no one is remembered for invisible effort, but for concrete impact. The problem is that this truth hurts because it removes the moral comfort of those who believe that wanting good is enough to win. Here enters one of the most misinterpreted ideas: the end justifies the means. Not in the sense of trampling on principles, but in understanding that intention without execution does not build power. It is better to be feared than loved in this sense, to be recognized for the ability to deliver, not just for being liked. How many people are seen as good people, but never as leaders? How many are loved, but never decisive? Those who are only concerned with avoiding being hated tend to dilute actions, soften decisions, and waste precious time. The wise observe that intention is private, results are public, and the world reacts to what is visible. The practical guidance is simple and uncomfortable. Measure your own life by real deliverables. How much did you earn, build, learn, influence in the last year? Reading John Doerr's Measure What Matters helps to understand objective metrics, while The 48 Laws of Power reinforces how results alter perceptions. Building your own loyal armies means creating assets that work for you: skills, investments, reputation. Decisions based on real human nature show that nobody follows those who only promise. They follow those who prove it. And when this brutal metric is accepted, an inevitable question arises. If time were short, what would really be worth doing? Few questions reorganize the mind as quickly as this one. When someone imagines they only have 1 year to live, priorities change almost instantly. Small vanities lose their power, trivial conflicts become ridiculous, and what once seemed urgent reveals its irrelevance. The wise mentor uses this exercise not as drama, but as a strategic tool. Machiavelli would understand this as a shock of reality. When time is finite, only politics guided by reality, not by ideals, survives. The person stops living on autopilot and begins to see where they are wasting energy trying to please, justify themselves, or maintain an appearance of virtue that builds nothing solid. Memento Mori exposes an uncomfortable point. Many people live as if they have infinite time to decide, change, or act. This constant procrastination creates a false sense of security. The end justifies the means appears here as a lucid urgency. If time is short, it makes no sense to sustain empty relationships, dead-end jobs, or projects that lead nowhere. Better to be feared than loved, in this context, is to choose to be true to one's own truth, even if it disappoints others' expectations. Those who live trying to avoid being hated end up dying slowly, suffocated by choices they never made. The wise person would suggest a practical exercise. Write down what the next 12 months would be like if there were no fear. What would be cut? What would be started? Reading Death is a Day Worth Living by Ana Claudia Quintana Arantes helps bring clarity, while The Prince reinforces how late decisions cost entire kingdoms. Building your own loyal armies in this scenario is investing in autonomy now, not later. Decisions based on real human nature show that most people only wake up too late, and this forced awakening reveals something even more serious. Perhaps you are playing a complex game, with rules you never learned. Many people feel they strive, think, plan, and yet still lose. The feeling is one of constant injustice, as if life were always cheating. The attentive mentor notices something different. It's not bad luck, it's a misinterpretation. The person thinks they are playing checkers, simple rules, predictable moves, linear justice, while the world is playing chess. Machiavelli would never make that mistake. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches that those who don't understand the game become pawns. The problem is not a lack of intelligence, but a lack of strategic awareness. Those who don't know where they are step onto the wrong board and call it fate. In the chess game of life, not all pieces have the same value, nor do all moves have the same weight. Some actions require sacrifice now for advantage later. The end justifies the means appears here as a cold reading of the situation. Sometimes it is necessary to lose in order to reposition. Better to be feared than loved in this context is to be respected as someone who understands the game, not as someone naive. Those who live trying to avoid being hated always play defensively, react late, and relinquish the initiative. But those who understand the board choose when to advance, when to retreat, and above all, when not to move. The wise person would advise something simple and transformative: observe before acting. Instead of reacting impulsively, map out the interests, strengths, and weaknesses around you. Reading books like The 48 Laws of Power helps identify patterns. Studying negotiation and game theory broadens your perspective. Building your own loyal armies here means developing resources that expand your options: money, skills, network. Decisions based on real human nature show that those who understand the game rarely complain about it. And when this awareness arises, it becomes impossible not to see a specific illusion, the one that drains energy and keeps many people perpetually weak. There is a silent illusion that consumes more energy than any hard work: the attempt to control what is beyond your control. People spend hours ruminating on the past, imagining scenarios, trying to predict others' reactions, or changing their own behavior to avoid future conflicts. The wise mentor sees this as an absurd strategic loss. Machiavelli would understand quickly. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, begins by accepting the limits of control. Those who try to govern the uncontrollable wear themselves down and lose strength where it truly matters, in concrete action and clear positioning. The illusion of control disguises itself as responsibility. People believe that if they think more, explain themselves better, and are more careful, they can avoid pain, rejection, or mistakes. But the effect is the opposite. The end justifies the means here appears as liberation, abandoning useless battles to win the decisive ones. Better to be feared than loved at this point means stopping molding every gesture to please everyone. Those who live trying to avoid being hated surrender emotional autonomy, become hostage to the opinions of others, and lose presence. Energy that should build the future is burned trying to manage perceptions. The wise man suggests simple and objective practices. Focus on what can be influenced today. Sleep better, train your body, study a specific skill, organize your finances. Reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations helps to distinguish control from acceptance. Machiavelli teaches that virtue only acts where action is possible. Building your own loyal armies is investing in internal and external assets that respond to you, not to chance. Decisions based on real human nature show that those who abandon illusions quickly regain strength. And this strength opens up space to realize something that few admit aloud. Successful people know exactly what they are doing. There's an unspoken agreement. Successful people know the world is a power game, and they play it consciously. They aren't necessarily smarter or more talented, but they are more insightful. While many still operate on autopilot, believing that brute force solves everything, these individuals observe patterns, read environments, and choose their moves. Machiavelli saw this as political maturity, a politics guided by reality, not ideals. The secret isn't in being better, but in understanding the terrain. Those who recognize the game early on stop being surprised by others' results. The uncomfortable point is that successful people rarely admit it publicly. They talk about merit, discipline, and values, all true but incomplete. The end justifies the means appears as silent pragmatism. They do what works, even if it doesn't sound good. Better to be feared than loved here means being taken seriously, not underestimated. They know when to show strength and when to put on an appearance of virtue. They also know how to avoid being hated, maintaining alliances and reputation. It's not cheap manipulation. It's a fine reading of real human nature applied with constant adaptability. The wise translate this into practical actions, choosing battles, investing in assets that broaden options and never depending on a single source of power. Reading biographies of leaders and entrepreneurs reveals the same recurring pattern. Building your own loyal armies can mean multiple income streams, a solid network, or communication dominance. Decisions based on real human nature show that success is rarely an accident, it's engineering. And when this awareness sets in, the final question arises, impossible to ignore. Ultimately, are you being played, or are you playing? This question is unsettling because it cuts through all excuses. There's no comfortable middle ground. Either a person understands the game and acts consciously, or they become part of the machine without understanding it. The experienced mentor observes that most people aren't losing due to a lack of ability, but due to a lack of strategic reading. Machiavelli would say that living without understanding the chessboard is accepting a politics guided by reality, not by ideals, without even participating in it. Those who don't choose consent. Those who don't decide are decided. And deep down, many people prefer to believe that things happen rather than admit that they are being pushed by forces they never bothered to study. Being manipulated seems more comfortable in the short term. A person follows implicit rules, avoids friction, maintains an appearance of virtue, and believes this protects them. But the price becomes apparent over time. Frustration, stagnation, and a constant feeling of injustice. The end justifies the means. Here emerges as an awakening. Either you accept the cost of learning the game, or you pay the much higher cost of being a pawn. Better to be feared than loved at this point is to be respected as someone conscious, not treated as naive. Those who only try to avoid being hated never take a stand, never create weight, never influence the course of events. The wise man concludes with a practical provocation. Consider your last major decision. Was it the result of choice or reaction? Those who are playing the game build their own loyal armies, financial autonomy, emotional mastery, negotiating skills. Those who are being played live as hostages to a salary, a relationship, or the approval of others. Decisions based on real human nature show that power does not arise by chance, but from constant adaptability to the scenario. The question is not moral, it is strategic. And when it resonates strongly enough, it makes it clear that the entire path traveled so far leads to an inevitable point. The moment to tie it all together and decide what to do with this knowledge. Everything you've seen here isn't meant to turn you into a cold, calculating, soulless person. It's meant to wake you up. Because the truth is simple and harsh. As long as you don't understand the game, you're playing against yourself. How many decisions in your life were made to please others? How many times have you over-explained yourself, given in too much, waited too long? And how many opportunities passed you by while you believed that doing the right thing was enough? Knowledge without application changes nothing. It only weighs on your conscience. Now the question is inevitable. What will you do differently from here on out? Will you continue reacting, or will you start choosing? Will you keep waiting for recognition, or will you build real value? Will you maintain the appearance of virtue, or will you assume the calculated use of force when necessary? Machiavelli didn't teach wickedness, he taught lucidity. And lucidity hurts because it removes excuses. But it also liberates because it gives power back to those who decide to face reality head on. If this content made you think, then it has already fulfilled part of its purpose. But real change begins when you act. Choose a situation from your life today, work, relationships, or personal decisions, and observe. Are you being played, or are you playing? If this type of reflection helps you grow, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep following. Here you learn to see the game before it swallows you whole.